Good morning! Hi, cubies and newbies. I am Sunshine. This is the ABCube method for solving Rubik's Cubes. This is Formula A, 4 moves. Formula B is 8 moves. With those two patterns, that's all you need to solve every complexity minx. Every complexity cube. Every complexity minx. And I will be finding out soon how it works on the pyramids. So, awesome there. It's a brand new week. Usually I solve these through the week, and then I scramble them for solving on Monday to start again on Monday. And I did not do that. I did not finish. I got busy on Saturday doing some racing and some zooming. So I'm going to scramble these and we'll start again on Monday because it's a new week. So scramble, scramble, scramble. While I'm scrambling, quick overview. Formula A is 4 moves, brings a piece to the top. Mathematical zero commutator. Formula B is 8 moves, moves 3 pieces around. And 3 and only 3 pieces around. And with that, that's all you need to solve every complexity cube. You don't have a parity algorithm because, haha, parities are a lie. The cake is a lie. You do not have to play with parities unless you want to. Like I said, it also works on every complexity minx, every complexity cube. I have a parity preloaded for me in case I get to the parity where parity might appear and it doesn't appear. I've got one preloaded so I can demonstrate it. This is my pattern. This is my pretty pattern that I created. It's supposed to be. It's usually done on a 3x3. It's called softball. You can imagine. There you go. You can imagine that it's 2 pieces of cloth that come together like so. So that's fun. All right. Okay. No matter which cube you have, I am on the spectrum, so feel free to interrupt me with chat and questions, or tell me where you're from. I love socializing. I love dialogue more than I love monologue, and I love teaching more than I love demonstrating. So if you bring me all your non-cuber friends, I'll be happy to work with them. We'll have fun. Here's a fidget toy. Here's a 1x1 fidget toy. Actually, this is not technically a 1x1 because I guess it would be. Anyway, it's a fidget toy. It also comes apart so you can have a top as well. So that's fun. Alright. Let's dive right into it. Good morning. Thank you for joining me. Alright. Every complexity Rubik's Cube. No matter which cube you have, what it looks like, we can treat all of the cubes the exact same way, and Formula A and B will solve all of them. So no matter which cube you have in your hand, every one of them has 8 corners, so that's where we're going to start. We're going to start with the 8 corners. When we're done with the 2x2, that'll be solved, and everything else we will have dictated which color each face is going to be. Back in the 80s, and still, because if it ain't broke, we don't fix it, we used to work around the absolute center because the absolute center was stable. It would not move in relation to itself. If a color was opposite a color, it was always opposite a color. That stopped being the case when someone invented the 2x2. Oh, quick history of the cube. Mr. Rubik only invented the 3x3. He did not invent the 4x4 or the 5x5 or the larger cubes or the 2x2. They were invented by others. And what Mr. Rubik invented was not the puzzle itself. He invented a method of holding the 3x3 together so it didn't come apart. The puzzle existed before then as a 2x2, same idea, 6 colors, 6 sides. You want to twist it to make the colors match up. However, it was held together by magnets. And so what Mr. Rubik invented, bless his heart, bless his soul, was the way to hold it together. He patented the way to hold it together. Since there's more than one way to do that, that patent was circumvented. But he was the he wasn't trying to create a puzzle. As the story goes, he created it as a way to demonstrate how an atom moves around itself in each direction, and created it out of wood. After he played with it for a while, he painted it so he could see how the pieces were moving, so he could visualize it better. Played with it for time, and then decided to put it away. So he started putting the colors back together, and he couldn't solve it. So he created a puzzle, not knowing that's what he was doing. It was originally called the Magic Cube. It was Nick called the Hungarian Horror. We had changed it because so people were afraid it had to do with the occult because it was magic. Oh dear. So they called it the Rubik's Cube. And when the 4x4 was invented, it could have been called something else, but they went with a naming convention and called it the Rubik's Revenge, even though Erno Rubik had nothing to do with it. And so then every cube is now called Rubik's, just like every adhesive bandage is called Band-Aids, and hook and latch, hoop and hook closures are called Velcro. It's just the way we do it. So that being said, who do we have here today? Oh, we got a list. I see a couple names I don't recognize. Thank you for joining me. Hi, I'm Sunshine, and this is the ABCube method. This is my method. I'm ABCube tutor. And like I said, whichever cube you have has 8 corners, so we're going to start with the 8 corners. Doesn't matter which cube I pick because I'm going to do all of them the exact same way. So let's start with this one. Okay, and this can be color neutral. But when I alpha tested, everyone told me to tell them what to do. So your cube is in your hands, pick a color. There's 8 corners, each corner has 3 colors, pick a color. I'm choosing yellow, so that's what I'm talking about, but you can translate it in your brain if you're that good, if you're clever. So I choose a corner that has a yellow on it. I hold it in my hand, in my 2 hands. The yellow is on the top face, and it's under my left thumb. I'm going to look at the front face as if it's a spreadsheet with the rows and columns. And if you look at the patterns here, the formulas, Formula A works with 1 row and 1 column. Hi! Hello, Cami McGooman. Hi! Thank you for... How are you today? Do you have any questions? Anything you want to talk about today? Or should I go ahead with my corners, as I have usually scheduled for Mondays as corners? So, 1 row, 1 column for A, 1 row, 2 columns for B. A can be, for the corners, it's the bottom row in the right column, only because I'm right-handed. But you can also do the middle row and middle column to move the centers around as needed. So, I've selected a corner that has yellow, and because I've selected it, I'm all-powerful, therefore this corner is correct, and everything else is going to... I remember you talking about how to avoid parody. Do you want me to talk about parodies? I can talk about parodies. Yeah, a parody can occur on the 4x4 or larger, but it can also occur on a void cube, and for the same reason. A parody, because we started with the 3x3. When the 4x4 came out, and something happened on the 4x4 that could not happen on the 3x3, we called it a parody. And the reason why it can happen on a 4x4 and not a 3x3 is because on the 3x3, if you have any specific questions about parody, drop them in there. I'm going to talk about parodies, but make it a dialogue. Ask me any questions you want. But the parody is caused by... Let me back up. On a 3x3, if you take it apart and put it back together again, you have to put it back together again and solve, because every cube cubie, as opposed to the cube, the individual cubes are called the cubies. And my followers are called cubies because I'm clever like that. Okay, so every piece has a specific place that is correct. And so if you take it apart, you have to put it back together again, solved in order for it to be. When you get to a 4x4, the corners and the edges all have a correct place to be. So you have to assemble it with corners and edges correct. But the centers, because they are oblique, because they center. Do I think it's possible to add the parity avoidance to your method, to more conventional methods? Oh, okay. Do I think it's possible to add the parity avoidance of my method? The parity avoidance of my method is that I do corners first, because you can get the parity can happen on the corners or edges. We don't recognize it as a parity on the corners because we know that we just turned the slice one time. Can I use it to more conventional methods like redo or YAL? The reduction method is more likely to give you a parity simply because when you're finding a piece and just throwing it where it belongs, they pair themselves up. But when you pair them up and then treat them as one, you're actually increasing your odds of getting a parity. As far as YAO, I will have to study that, but if you have a parity, then you either have to use a parity algorithm or you have to do a single quarter turn. First time chat, I think you're spam. Cheap viewers on something. Go away. Mine is corners first because like I said, I treat all my cubes the same way, and all of the cubes have the corners. And that is not how I did it in the 80s. I worked around the center just like everyone else. But there's no order of operations. This method, it's intuit whatever you want and then use my method whenever it becomes convenient. Because the thing is there's no order of operations. You can do center, you can then work out. It doesn't matter because when you do Formula B, you're moving 3 cubes and only 3 cubes. So when it's only moving the cubies that you want to move, so it doesn't mess up anything else. So I would need to study YAL more, but the thing is that the way to avoid the parity, avoid the parity is when you see that it's there, make a single quarter turn and move on. If you don't do that, if you're going center first, or if you're going reductionist method, you're going to get a parity. And when you have a parity, so like I have a parity, okay? Let's pretend that I used, not the reduction method, but when you get a parity at the end, all you can do is, well, actually, I think this is your question. Here's a parity, and the centers are already done, so I can either use a parity algorithm, or I can make my single quarter turn. Now here's the single quarter turn is this. On the slice that has the parity, there are 4 edges on this slice. 2 of them are flipped, 2 of them need to move, and 2 of them are correct. And so if I make a single quarter turn, 1 of them is correct and 3 of them are incorrect. And then you probably have an algorithm that will solve those 3 from however you do it. I can do it with Formula B. But when you make that single quarter turn, you then have to redo the centers, which doesn't matter if you're using corners first, edges, and then centers, because if your centers are not already done, it doesn't matter. But if your centers are already done, you make that single quarter turn, and then you solve your edges in that way, and then you set the edges, you set the centers again. So was that too esoteric? Was that too rambling? Did that answer your question, or do you want to rephrase it for me? I usually do corners first. Sometimes if I have a big cube, sometimes I'll just go layer by layer, and I'll just do the last layer last. Okay, good. So yeah, when you have a parity, you either parity algorithm or a single quarter turn. When you're going corners, edges, and then centers, the single quarter turn is pretty much irrelevant because, so the answer is that you can't add it. I can't add it to other methods. I don't know the other methods well enough to answer your question, so I'm ignorant. I don't know how to answer the question on that because I don't know the Yao method. I'm familiar with the concept of the reductionist method. But either you have a parity and then you use an algorithm. Yao is similar to reduction. So yeah, as soon as you realize that you have a parity, the earlier you realize you have a parity, the sooner you can make a single quarter turn and get rid of the parity. If you don't do the single quarter turn, you have to deal with the parity at the end. That's my best answer based on the limited information I have about Yao. Excellent question. You got me thinking. Okay, so any other questions? So when I do, when I do this, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this so I can show you. When I do the single quarter turn, and then I'm going to use formula B to place those 3 edges. Wait, is that a 3 by 3 by? Yes, this is a 3 by 3 by 9. And A and B works on this as well. Do you want me to play with my 3 by 9 today? 3 by 9 is made by Whit Eden. It does look really cool. And the story behind it is when I bought it because I needed to know whether I could solve it or not, because you got to find yourself a new challenge. Whit Eden is a really old brand. Is there someone else who does it? I don't even know. So I tried to learn it, couldn't learn it by myself. So I spent a month watching people's tutorials on YouTube, and are trying to get the algorithms that'll do something for me. And they made the first speed solvable 2x2 and 4x4. Okay. Yeah, back in the 80s they didn't have speed cubes. Cubes were very clunky. And so, yeah, and there was no cornering. There was no cornering. Everything had to be lined up precisely correct in order to turn it, because they were old and they would pop. The first Rubik's Cube was easier to take apart though, because the blue-orange edge piece had a little indent in the inside. So if you lined it up, you could pop that blue and orange piece out, and then the rest of it would fall apart. So the blue and orange had an indent on the inside, a dent on the inside that would allow you to put it in and out, take it out easily. So there is that. The thing about the Whit Eden 3x9 though, the thing is that formula B uses the top row to go like over and back and forth in order to have access to the columns. Okay, and on a 3x9 that doesn't work because you don't have access to the columns. I have a few magnetic cubes. I have a few. I love my my GAN mirror cube. It's not easy to take apart though. Yeah, cubes back then they didn't have didn't have the screw under the piece. It was just to take it apart, put it back together again. But the difference between this, I do have a mirror cube. I have many mirror cubes, probably about 5, 6, 4, somewhere around there. But I also have a 5x5 mirror cube, which I don't play with very often because it's a long time solving. I do have a mirror cube, not with me, not on my stage right now, but I do have mirror cubes. My favorite is the yes, a 5x5 mirror. Would you like to see it? It's not professionally made. It was. Okay, I'll be right back. Okay, here's my 5x5. Also, this is why you can have a parity on a void cube, is because the center can be set a quarter turn off, and you won't know it. Okay, so this is not commercially made. Someone 3D printed the stuff and then just glued it onto a 5x5 cube to make it a 5x5 mirror cube. Hold on, let me get rid of this. There we go. So, yes, you can. And I'm going to do a checkerboard on it so you can see. Okay, so checkerboard on a 5x5 mirror cube. I believe that's what they did. I believe they just 3D printed it and then glued the pieces onto a regular 5x5. They didn't 3D print the 5x5. They took a 5x5 and then they 3D printed the extensions to make it. That's the same concept as the Rexto. I don't know what a Rexto is. But so with the 5x, I don't go layer by layer. I mean, when I'm doing the 3D printed, my first two colors, but the opposite colors that I work with, the yellow and white, are the longest side and the shortest side, because it's easier to see the extremities. And then when those are done, then I do the side edges. So I did the same as Formula A and B. Custom version of the FTO puzzle. FTO puzzle. See, I've been cubing for a long time, but I haven't been part of the community for a long time, and so I don't really know. I don't know all of the shorthand, all of the lingo of the community. Like I don't know the difference between, what the different permutations are. So, what's an FTO puzzle? Is that a difficult question? I can look it up instead of asking you. Face turning, octahedron? Since I got back into cubing, after I got away from it in the early 80s, made by Lenlun. Face turning. It's time for me to buy some more cubes. It's not good? Okay. It's time for me to buy some more cubes. So I need you guys' input on which cubes you'd like me to be able to try to see if my ABCube method works on it. Someone the other day said Megamorphics. So I'm going to try that one. So here's what I need from you guys. I need you to tell me what my next cube purchases should be in order to test. So I'm going to get a Pyraminx. Actually, someone's sending me a Pyraminx. Thank you very much. So I'm going to get it. I'm going to get a pyramid. I'm going to get the that one that looks like a pyramid but is strange. And then there's an axis cube. I'm going to get the axis cube. So all of you, give me your opinion. What cube should I try next? I have tried the square one, and Square One and I are not friends. It's too it's too intimidating. I gave it to one of my students. But I want to be able to see which cube. I mean, obviously, if it's just a if it's just a shape mod of a 3x3, actually, then I can do it. I'll be able to do it if it's just a shape mod of a 3x3. But they look so clever. They look so, and this is shiny too. I love it. I love it, so shiny. And it's purple. Purple is one of my favorite colors. Better Megaminx. This is the Megaminx, right? I have about 6 different Megaminks by different companies. And my Gigaminks here, this is not a very good Gigaminks. When I drop it, the corners come apart. So I'm going to need to buy myself a better Gigaminks, because this Terraminx is really nice and it's very stable. And so I want to get a Gigaminks by the same brand as this one. There's a really nice turning one by YJ. Is this? I don't know who this is by. Can you tell me? Let me focus on it a little bit. Yuxin. This is by Yuxin. Yuxin. Yeah, this is a Yuxin. So I want to get Yuxin. I think I'm sold. I want to get the rest of my cube. I want to get a whole family of these by Yuxin, unless there's a better brand, because I kind of really like this one. So anyone else want to pop in and tell me what I should buy next? Because I've got about $200 burning a hole in my pocket. So, I want to. I'm thinking about getting the even number cubes, even number mixes as well. An ABCube. An ABCube. Should I look up an ABCube, or do you want to tell me what it is? Or Cube? Okay. All right. I will look into each of these. Anyone? Any other suggestions? I will look into all of them. So keep throwing them in. Anyone else want to throw a comment in there to what I should be looking at? That would be fun. Because I want to see if you've tried a Cube. An ABCube is a Cube mod with 2 corners bonded to the edges. Banded. So I was telling the story about this one. So I got it. So I started looking at different people's YouTubes for this, and looking at patterns, and the closest I could get to understanding was, here's an algorithm, and the algorithm is going to do these things, so hold your cube, hold it so that that's going to be effective, and then do the algorithm, and then reset it and see what to do next. And I could not wrap my brain around it. So I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'm not smart enough to do the 3x3 and 3x9. And then I had a clever idea, because the thing is because I couldn't see what it was doing because it wasn't solved. So then what I did is I went and I got my 7x cube. And I said, I'm going to pretend this is the 3x9. I'm going to pretend that the white and yellow can't move, so I can see what happens. I'm like, well, what does my AMB do? So I altered my Formula B. Instead of being a single turn left and right for the horizontals, it was just always a double, and then I could access the sides okay. And once I was able to see what Formula B would do on the cube, working just with a 9 by side, then I had mastered it overnight. So it took me a month of struggling, and then figured out how to apply Formula B to it. If you try to Scooby, what I would have done is tried to reduce it to a 3x. Tried to reduce this to the 3x9 to the 3x3. Yeah, I couldn't figure. Back in the 80s, I was not one of those. The world was divided in the 80s between people who were interested in the cube. Well, okay, if you were interested in the cube, either you were smart enough to figure out how to solve it, in which case you were a genius, or you bought somebody's book and memorized it, like me. I bought a book and memorized it, in which case all of non-cubers thought that qualified as still being a genius. So I just bought a book and I memorized it, but I was not one of the ones who could just figure it out by themselves. I did do that as an adult to create